In this episode of the Orange Nerd Show, we are talking all about the one, the only, the big cheese, our boss, right, George? We got that special access, our boss, Mickey Mouse. We are talking about Mickey Mouse today, his 96th birthday this month. Crazy, crazy, crazy. The mouse that changed the world. Up next on the Orange Nerd Show. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. But this particular episode is Orange Nerd, all about Mickey Mouse's birthday, 96 years young. George, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me back on. And it's always a good time to be back on Orange Grove 55, but to celebrate another birthday with the big cheese himself. And I have to say, for 96, he looks pretty good for his age.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, no plastics. Well, he had a little bit of plastic surgery for Fantasia, right? A little bit, changed a little bit there, but since then he's been pretty much the same guy, you know. So looking pretty good, Mickey.
But I guess we also have to say too, happy birthday to Minnie Mouse as well, because they both share the same birthday.
The lovely, the fashion queen. You know, I mean, come on, Minnie's a fashion icon. You know what I'm saying? Minnie Mouse, absolutely. So both of them are celebrating their 96 birthdays, and they both look absolutely incredible. The cutest couple in Hollywood. But George, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me on, well, as of right now, you cannot find me on X.
Because he's been hacked.
I've been hacked. The Italiano has been hacked.
Yeah, X is investigating and all that, so he should get it back, but they're looking into everything.
Yeah. And if not, then unfortunately, I'm not going to be starting over on X, but you can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news info.
Sticky like cheese. Here we go. We got Mickey Mouse, the big cheese. This is courtesy of our friend, Mr. Drew, the Disney dude. Awesome guy. We're gonna have Drew on the channel very, very soon. We're working on something with him. But so he tweeted this out. What was it, yesterday? Because yesterday was actually his birthday, the 18th. Drew here says, 96 years ago today, a character was born that captured our hearts. Happy birthday, Mickey Mouse. I'm not going to play the music or anything, but George, what are your thoughts on Mickey Mouse, man? I mean, this is crazy because we talk a lot about Walt Disney, right? We talk a lot about how Walt Disney changed our lives. Without this man who was born in 1901, you know, we wouldn't have met. We wouldn't have met our amazing family here at OG55, right? Yes, our audience, our collaborators, you know, Ebba, Slimer, Jay, the whole fam. You know what I'm saying? Seymour,
my girlfriend,
your girlfriend Abby, everybody connected to this channel, we would have never come in contact with if not for Walt. But really, Mickey's a part of that equation too. So what say you about Mickey Mouse?
I agree with you. A lot of people, you know, who knew Walt best, they said Walt was Mickey and Mickey was Walt. You know, they complemented each other. So it's like it was a 2-for-1. You know, you couldn't have, it was a BOGO. You know, you couldn't have one without the other. But what was actually interesting was how Mickey captivated the world and still captivates the world to this very day, 96 years later. And the fact that Mickey was not originally Walt's first kind of go at the animation run. You know, it's actually started off with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and Walt ended up losing the rights to Oswald, and 90 years later the Walt Disney Company finally got the rights back to Oswald. But in the meantime, Walt was out of a character. You know, he didn't have Oswald anymore. So it came about where he was collaborating with his good friend Ub Iwerks, and got some inspiration from his wife Lillian as well, and thus the mouse was born. You know, November 18th, 1928, and so it's been a long journey, but Mickey was a fan favorite from the beginning. You know, you hear these stories when they say Walt had to work his way up the ladder to prove himself worthy, you know, that he could be part of the, you know, the business. But Mickey, he was loved the world over from the very beginning. You know, he never really, you know, people like drew to this little mouse with a big personality, and it was just something that the world had never yet seen before in cartoons. So, and then as time went on, you know, at the same time, you know, Mickey had Minnie, and then their friends, you know, Donald, Goofy, Pluto came about, Chip and Dale later on. I have to mention Chip and Dale because we have some friends on the channel that love Chip and Dale.
Well,
a lot of people love Team Chip, but
yeah, exactly. Our friend Marilyn we have Marilyn on the other day talking about our favorite stuff at Disneyland Resort, and she loves Chip, absolutely loves Chip. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy how this whole thing started. I do want to bring this up too, real quick. Mickey, plain crazy Mickey, has the same hair as OG, so I thought that was pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? We share a similar hairstyle in this plain crazy short. I guess I'm just playing crazy, George. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just playing crazy.
Actually, at first, you know, Walt was going to name him Mortimer, and his wife Lillian was like, "No, it seems too like old fashioned and everything. Like this character seems very mischievous, very, you know, kind of like spunky and kind of like you just keep it simple, like just Mickey. You know, just name him Mickey." Which they eventually did create a character later on named Mortimer Mouse, which was kind of ironic because he kind of became Mickey's rival to get the hand to Minnie Mouse, you know, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Mortimer, and he had like the very 1930s, like the pants up to here, you know, and like
the striped shirt and the hat,
right, and the really sharp like pleat in the jeans. I mean, in the pants and everything. So 1930s, it was hilarious. But it's interesting, man. I mean, Mickey it's crazy to me how recognizable this character is. You have the three circles, the Mickey Mouse three circles, that's recognized around the world. You know, I mean, I remember hearing, I think it was on History Channel, if I'm not mistaken, like some statistics where there are certain symbols that are very recognizable around the world. And Mickey Mouse, the three circle silhouette of Mickey Mouse was up there in terms of recognizable symbols, was up there in like the top few, next to like the cross, okay, and all that. I mean, it's crazy how recognizable it is, you know. And it doesn't matter what age you are. You have toddlers, Mickey. I mean, they already know. You know what I'm saying?
They really do.
Yeah, it's crazy to me how recognizable and how it's so ingrained in our American culture. That's why when I hear people talking about Disney, you know, going under and all this stuff, and I get it, we get into our fan debates and our fan discussions, right? And people have different ideas and different theories and what have you, opinions, right? That's cool. It's healthy, right? But I always have to push back on these people that are like, oh, well, Disney had like 2 or 3 bad years at the box office, so the brand is going down, or people are falling out of love with Disney. And it's like, you don't understand. This isn't like, this is 100 years of conditioning. I mean, this is 100 years of conditioning in our culture, our pop culture, you know, awareness. That you're not going to undo that in 3, 4, 5 years.
Not to mention, like what you just described right now, like a couple years of a slump at the box office. You know, that may be very true. You know, and it is. You know, with some of their films that they released, but the Walt Disney Company is enormous. There are so many different connective tissues that make this company. For instance, there's people that may not like Disney animated films, and that's okay, but they might enjoy going to the parks. There may be people who don't like the hustle and bustle of the parks, but they'll do a Disney cruise. There's people that may not watch the movies, go to the parks, or do a Disney cruise, but they love Mickey Mouse. So you don't necessarily have to love every single aspect of Disney. We do because we're nerds and that's our passion, you know, but I mean, we still call the company out when they do something that they really shouldn't do, you know, obviously. But just everybody in general, they could love a piece of the company and they don't have to love the whole aspect of it. But it's still a win for Disney.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy how much this mouse and how much Disney has really changed the world. It really has changed the world. People talk a lot about Epic Universe right now. And rightfully so. It's a big thing. It's a big deal. That's not something that would even happen. There wouldn't be an Epic Universe if not for Walt Disney and what he pioneered and started with Disneyland in Anaheim.
Which Epic Universe is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Universal in general is great.
Yeah.
I love coming out to Universal Hollywood, doing the tram tour. There's history in the tram tour that goes all the way back to, to the golden age of Hollywood with Universal and everything. But if you just go into a park like Epic Universe or even Islands of Adventure, it's great, it's fun, but there's not that rich nostalgic history that's connected to it more than the Walt Disney Company with like Disneyland or even Walt Disney World. Even though Walt wasn't around when Walt Disney World was built, it's the resort was still built off of the dream and the vision of Walt. He started that process, and his brother Roy finished it.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing. Is the thing is that yes, Universal does have a history, and it's a cool history. I mean, they do have history with the Universal monsters and that whole thing, and it's interesting. But the difference I think with Disney, and I'm not putting Universal down because no company has what Disney has. So it's right. But the thing with Disney though, it's such a simple, digestible story to kind of comprehend. And you had Uncle Walt, who was such a likable guy, out there every Sunday or whatever it was, and he kind of talked directly to the American people all the time through those TV shows and what have you. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of it's a different kind of story. It's a success story about a guy who came to California with a suitcase and a dream. Okay. I'm just kidding. No, but he came to California and with like, like $30 in his pocket or something crazy. Mm-hmm. And he built an empire, right? It's like the epitome of the American dream. It really is the epitome of the American dream. And I think that story of Walt and what he did really resonated with people. And there's not really another example like that, like a mainstream example like that, where people really know and connect to it like that. And I think that connection to Walt and his story and creating Mickey Mouse and this whole empire, I think people really connect and feel that. And I think that's why Disney is sort of Teflon. People still go, you see it all the time with Disneyland. They raise these magic key prices. I mean, to like what, $1,500 or, it'll be $2,000 before you know it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And people are still doing it. They're lining up to buy these things. It's because people are so in love with what's behind. It's not just good rides, because Universal makes good rides. Dollywood has good rides. Mm-hmm. Knott's has good rides. You have a lot of places that have good rides. It's the story behind Disney that I think people have fallen in love with. And I think that's why it hits different.
Yes.
It just hits so much different. So, and it all started with this little mouse man. Well, actually it started with Oswald, but we won't go there. Not on Mickey's birthday, but it did start with Oswald, but it's wild stuff, man. It's great. That's why I love Disney so much, is because of this backstory. You're not going to find that. You're not going to find that anywhere else, dude.
And then it's also the evolution of Mickey Mouse himself. Like, look how many transitions that he went through. Like, as you had mentioned, like the plain crazy version with the OG hairstyle and the Steamboat Willie version of him, and then it slowly progresses into like in color, and then for Fantasia, and then in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, to where of how we even see Mickey today in the Mickey Mouse shorts, like the newer version of it, where it kind of gives him the appearance of like the traditional Mickey, but then goes back to kind of like that black and white kind of like mischievous pest that he was. I mean, like back in those days, I mean, you couldn't get away with the stuff now where Mickey slaps Minnie on the ass and like whistles at her. It's like,
oh, and he's smoking in there. I've seen a couple where he has like a gun and stuff. Like, it's none of that would fly nowadays. But that's interesting too, because it shows you how what's appropriate changes over time, right? So you could have Mickey smoking a cigarette back in like the 1930s. No one cared about that. You can't do that now. You can't have Mickey Mouse smoking a cigarette. You can't even smoke a cigarette when you're at Disneyland.
Exactly.
I mean, it's crazy how times have changed. And now alcohol is less of a stigma. Like I think back in Wall State, it was seen much more of like it was I think it was seen as kind of like trashy and kind of sloppy back then. And now it's like not really. We have places at downtown Disney that sell alcohol inside the parks, and I think alcohol is seen differently right now in our culture than it was back then. Probably seen more in a positive light now than it was back then, where cigarettes are seen in more of a negative light now than it was back then. But times change, times evolve, and that's why I've been saying up for the longest time when it comes to this stuff, when people want to get in on the culture war and all this stuff about how, you can't have this and that because, you got to evolve with the times a little bit. Disney's not going to last as a brand, as a company, if you live in 1962 forever. You got to move on. You got to adapt and evolve a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So
especially like at Magic Kingdoms, like when you had mentioned like you can't even smoke in the parks anymore. Well, they used to have designated spots, and a lot of people are griping, the rivers of America are going away with Tom Sawyer Island. Well, if everyone actually thinks and goes back, the walkway that kind of puts you like on like a type of a bridge, like a dock that puts you closer to the water of the river itself, that whole space used to be designated for smoking. I used to dreading walking on that thing because it would be nothing but people sitting there smoking. And it discouraged me from walking that. And, now, you could actually walk that path and, it with clear air, not for too long because now it's about to become cars, but, but you get my point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. We had an area right in between Autopia, what used to be like, I think the Fantasyland Autopia, and the Matterhorn, between Matterhorn and Fantasyland Autopia, right under that monorail beam.
Oh, yes.
Was smoking for years and years and years. And now that's gone, obviously. But I'm actually, sorry, I'm choking. I'm actually one of the few non-smokers, though. I don't smoke cigarettes. Never have. No desire. But I'm one of the few non-smokers that I don't mind the smell. There's something very like masculine about it, right? Like that cigarette smells like, yeah, man, I don't know. It has like that cool kind of like, just like, I don't know, like that energy to it. I like the smell a little bit, but I'm weird, bro. A lot of non-smokers hate it. You're a non-smoker. Am I crazy?
Yes.
Yeah. am I plain crazy?
That's a question. A little plain crazy. For me, yeah, I'm not a smoker. But for me, I can't stand the smell only because it activates my allergies.
That makes sense.
So the smell just literally goes into my nasal passage, and it's I'm ruined the whole day. I'm sneezing. I got swelling and I can't stand it.
I don't want to be enveloped in it, but if someone their clothes smells like it, or it's a little bit, I'm like, oh, that smells kind of musky. I don't know. I kind of like it. It's weird. I'm a weird, honestly, I'm
there are people that have a connection to certain smells and fragrances,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a joke. I felt like there was a joke.
Well, I was close to it, but I thought, I'll be nice because it's Mickey Mouse's birthday.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We got to be on our good behavior. But yeah, so big milestone for Mickey, obviously 96. 4 more years until the big, until the big 100. Now,
that is, yeah, I'm glad you actually brought that up because I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts because a lot of people are saying, with 2028, with the Olympics coming to California, obviously it's going to be up in the LA area, so it may give a little bit of extra traction for Universal. But obviously, if people are there in LA for maybe an hour or so, go down to Disneyland for a day or two, because it's going to draw massive crowds. Where people are asking, what is Disney going to do to answer to that time of the Olympics with possibly Coco opening up at DCA, possibly Avatar almost on the brink of completion, or at least we could see construction happening.
Right.
But a lot of people may not think to say, 2028 is going to be Mickey Mouse's big 100th. And they're going to have some promotion, marketing campaign kind of big party for him.
Yeah, almost certainly, because that'll be an off year for Disneyland, right? I'm bad at math. Hold on one second. 2028 would be Disneyland's 73rd. So that's an off year for Disneyland. They're that year they're probably prepping for 75. So it's not going to interfere with Disneyland's birthday. That's a perfect kind of middle ground between the 70th and the 75th.
Mm-hmm.
You need a celebration, Mickey's 100th. You might get we'll probably get like a Mickey's fireworks show, with a banger soundtrack.
Nothing can stop us now.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Nothing can stop us now.
That was for Seymour. Seymour loves that song.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Because I know I manifest a lot of stuff out into the universe when it comes to Disney, but I could be wrong. And I kind of hope that I am, because I would love something new and original for Mickey's 100th. But if Disney kind of went the cheap route.
Don't even say it, George. Don't even say it, George. I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going with this, bro.
It's everybody's favorite nighttime show.
Mickey's Mix Magic.
Yeah.
Oh man, can you imagine?
That would be horrible. Like, I know that they created that. It was a fun little show for Mickey's 90th, but for his 100th,
come on,
they should do something like a much better, like love letter to him.
They absolutely should, bro. They absolutely should. No, that wouldn't work. Yeah, they couldn't do that. They need. I think they need like a show. That's a fun, cute little show. I get it, but and I don't hate that show, but they need like what they did for the 100th with Wondrous Journeys.
Yes,
but for Mickey Mouse.
Yes,
Mickey and Minnie. Show our girl Minnie some love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what you do. I think you go that route. You do a really spectacular fireworks show. You can have, Walt projected on the castle talking about Mickey, and have that relationship between Walt and Mickey in full display through a fireworks show. I think that'd be absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. So that's what they should do. Absolutely. But yeah, the 100th, I'm sure we'll get some Mickey stuff, maybe a fireworks show. I don't think a parade. But a fireworks show, maybe something for World of Color, definitely, things like that. So
they would never probably bring this back, because if you look back at it, it's kind of like cheesy, but it worked in that time. If they brought back the Mickey Mania Parade,
that was from Florida, right?
Yeah, that was in Florida. Because I'm for sure they're going to maybe cross, this celebration at Disneyland and Walt Disney World. So yeah, that one was kind of you could tell that was from the 80s and the 90s, where they had giant gloves of Mickey walking and his ears walking around. That was so trippy.
Yeah, and that was interesting back then in the 90s, because the Michael Eisner era, it was really big on the what would you call it? The iconography, I guess you would call it, of Mickey, or even of the other characters, like Goofy's hat and things like that, was really big in that era. And it's funny because I was thinking about it actually kind of recently. You see the silhouette now of Mickey everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They use it all the time.
Right.
But back in Walt's day, he didn't really do that. He didn't really use Mickey, the silhouette, just the silhouette, the three black circles, in marketing material or anything like that. It would just be Mickey's face. It would just be the face. It wouldn't be just
Eisner used that religiously, with the Disney Channel and all that. Yeah, that was definitely Eisner.
That was Eisner, and then it became normalized, right? But it's not. It's normalized now, but it's not as heavily used as it once was in the 90s. But Walt never had that. I never saw the Mickey silhouette. It was if he had Mickey, it would be the actual Mickey, the Mickey Mouse Club. The logo had Mickey's actual face. It wasn't just the silhouette. So that was kind of interesting. And then you never really saw him do like dabble into like the Mickey glove as like a symbol or anything like that. Walt never touched any of that. It was all Michael Eisner. And I'm not complaining. I think it's kind of cool. You know, I think it's kind of cool. But it's just interesting as you go through the years.
And it fit that time. I felt like it was appropriate at that time, you know?
Yeah, it worked. It was a style back then, you know? It was a style back then. So I don't know. Now, for all my Californians out there.
Hi, must have on the beat, ho.
I want to know. I want to take a little bit of a poll. So comment in the comment section down below. Speaking of the 90s, do any of my Californians remember KCal Kids? It was Channel 9, KCal Channel 9, called KCal Kids. It was a bunch of kids. They'd go on these like, they'd basically go to the park and they'd ride Big Thunder and they'd have like these little kind of mini, I don't know what you call it, like mini adventures, but then they would play like Disney cartoons in between. So comment down below, because I've tried to talk to so many people about that show. And a lot of people don't remember it. So if you're an old fogey like OG, comment down below KCal Kids if you are a Californian. So because it's a local channel. So George, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about.
I have no idea, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it was a great show. Absolutely a great show. The only person I know that remembers it is my lifetime friend, Sean.
Okay.
Sean remembers it, but we're like the same age. So maybe Jay Shearer will remember it. We're about the same age, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But George, Mickey Mouse 96 years. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? Before we see you real soon?
Yes. Yes. Just another happy 96th birthday to the one and only Mickey Mouse, and of course Minnie Mouse as well. And also, speaking of birthdays and milestones and everything, tonight during the time of this recording, the Disney Treasure was christened. They did a spectacular little mini show. I believe it was at Port Canaveral. They held a nice little drone show above the ship, and they played all Disney music and what have you. And Jordan Sparks was there from American Idol that she sang. And and also, speaking of Mickey Mouse, they kind of color coded the Disney Cruise Line ships to Mickey Mouse.
They color code. Oh, okay, that's kind of cool. That's very cool, actually. Now, how long was that event, that Disney Cruise thing?
It was only about maybe 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah, not too shabby. Not too shabby. Now, I want to make it very clear. When you say Minnie, George, you don't mean Minnie from G Idol, do you?
No, unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, no. Yeah, exactly. But we love this Minnie too. She's fantastic. Anyway, oh man. So George, where can they find you on social media, sir?
Absolutely. You can find me, currently, again, right now, not on X, formerly known as Twitter. We'll see how that goes. But you can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner. With all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Sticky Icky. Thank you so much, George, for joining. And thank you all so much at home for joining us today. Comment down below with all your thoughts on Mickey Mouse's 96th birthday, the impact of this Hollywood icon, this global icon and treasure that the world fell in love with. What are your thoughts on the one and only Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse? And if you want to talk about Minnie from G Idol, we'll get into that too. No worries. So comment down below. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the OrangeNerd Show. Here we.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.